Welcome back to Alan's Allotment. It's the 9th of July 2023. Been a really strange year for me. I don't know about anybody else. I look at some other people's YouTube channels and they're doing fantastic. Now I have been getting harvests and unfortunately you haven't seen me doing that due to time constraints with what's going on at home, bogged down with work and lots of other things going on. Hence why you're getting the videos in spurts. You get a glut of them and then there's nothing for a little while. But let me just spin you around and show you what I mean about a really strange year. So we're just going to have a wander in this polytunnel again, 9th of July. Look at the size of this Crimson Crush tomato. It has never got any bigger since that last video that I showed you. So I don't know what's going on. The peppers, look at this. I've never known it. This one here is doing about the best. It's starting to put some flower on now. Again, another Crimson Crush. It's tiny and spindly. Another one, not much better, and that's probably about the best one. But even so, pathetic specimens this year. I mean, look at the size of the tomatoes on the back of this. And there's nothing to the plant. Look at this one, even worse. Yet these are the suckers off the other, I think they're off the Shirleys. And look at how well these are coming on. I've just thinned out the grapes. And you can see I've cut another 1,000 or so off there. But you have to do this, it's pointless in leaving it with all of that, because you just won't get a harvest at all. So what I've done is basically selected the biggest bunches and let these fill out now. And there isn't going to be a massive amount at the end of it because of how many we've cut off, but it'll be more than enough for this year. As I say, this grapevine was bought out of Poundland and it was a pound. This is its third year, I think. No, it's only its second year. So I've just pulled a little handful of red spring onion out of this tunnel here. And ta-da, we've finally got our first tomatoes in here. I've got a couple of ripe tomatoes. Now these trusses are absolutely heaving. These are the Shirleys. Yeah, they are the Shirleys, these. So I've got a couple of tomatoes here ready, and I've got some of the yellow ones which we just don't know what breed they are, but it just says yellow tomatoes on there. And so yeah, we've got a few of those harvested. I'm going to leave one on to continue ripening, and I'm going to take both of those though. And you can see one or two here are just starting to ripen now as well. On a positive note, last week we sowed some seeds. Now, I couldn't get up all week until Thursday, I think it was, and these had completely dried out. So I put them in a soak tray with some water and a capillary matting in the bottom, gave them a good watering, and we've got pak choy, all year round collie, dwarf kale, autumn broccoli. Nothing on the garlic yet, but then they did dry right out. We've got some perpetual spinach starting, and I can see some more starting here now, the few in there, and we've got some red pak choy there. So I'm now over in the growing area, the garden bit, and you can see these nasturtiums have come on beautifully now. They've got flower on, and this bed is starting to fill up a little bit now, and putting on a late display. These onions are doing really well, and these ones were the last ones to go in, and again they're doing really well. Never had a year like this with this many on. Now I harvested the sweet candle carrot out of here through the week, and they were really nice. There wasn't many, if you remember, that germinated. These ones were all on the seed tapes, and one or two of these, I tested one or two to see what they were like, and they were okay. They were about that big, but the sweet candles were beauties. I wish I had videoed it, but unfortunately I didn't. And these were the last lot of suckers we put in. Look at them. Wow. The grapevine is getting established now. Some of the, oh, that's another sucker I pulled off and planted in it right at the end here. And it's getting going as well. So, yeah, we're even getting tomatoes on these. Some are doing better than others. I'm not sure if they're the yellow variety, because they're much paler than these ones. But some are doing really well, look. They've even got trusses with decent sized tomatoes on. Now, we're not going to get a lot of these, but any more is a bonus, isn't it? Have a look at our peaches. Oh wow, look at these. Look at the size of these now. So I've also harvested all of the broccoli. Again, you didn't see that on the video. They weren't massive, but we got a head of every one. And I cut the heads off to see if they would bring some more florets, and it must be a variety that doesn't do that. It didn't produce anything else, and I've just cut them off at the bottom now and given them to the chickens. And I've got one or two little cucumbers on it, but it looks rather pale and anemic. Maybe the cauliflowers are taking all the goodness out of that bed, I don't know. Lettuces, still no sign on the carrots yet. They need another little watering now. I did give them a water on Thursday evening, but those little trenches need another water, and possibly even covered over. Keep the glare and sun off. Little cabbages, we're just taking them now. We've had one or two. We're just taking them as and when we need some greenery. Right, I decided it's time for these Charlottes to come out. They weren't doing anything. The late foliage was all turning on them. You see how stunted they were. So I took this entire bed out. I took one out of each of these two beds. So I've took that bed out and that one. And you know something, I'll take that. It's not as big a harvest as I was hoping for, but you know what? It could have been worse as well. Considering you see the size of these, how small they are. There's next to nothing on them, foliage wise. You know, there are some nice potatoes here. And one thing I did notice, digging down in these, they were quite wet, but not soaking wet. But there's no scab at all on these. So, I don't know. Maybe it was because I kept my own seed potatoes back, and that's been the biggest problem. Right, when you have an allotment, you have to be prepared for failures as well as successes. And this year, for me, has been an effing disaster. Let me spin you round and I'll show you why. Right, so some observations. Overall, although it's not perfect, there's no scab on those, and it's not a bad little hole. I wasn't expecting that from these two beds because of how stunted the plants were and everything. Now these beds were damp, but they weren't soaking wet, and that probably has resulted in clean potatoes. The stunting, I think, is because I used my own seed potato, but I don't know. I've now harvested these two beds of kestrel, and it's a worse harvest. There is some scab on some of these, not many. What did I notice with these beds? These were stunted. Again, could have been my own saved seed potato. The beds were only, the beds were are compact underneath there, but now we knew that from when we harvested that bed. So those beds were very compacted, but funny enough, better draining than the one I'm about to show you. So I took the last bed of kestrel out, which was my own saved seed. Well, it's not the last actually. There's one bed left and I'm going to leave them. This one here. And look at how bad the scabbing is on these. There is a couple of clean ones, but that is all I got out of this entire brand new bed, brand new compost at the back end of last year. Why? Well, I always did think that too much water caused some scabbing as well. Perhaps it gives better conditions for the bacteria to thrive. I don't know. It's just a theory. You guys tell me. But this bed here was absolutely sopping wet, and I dug all the way down to the bottom, right down. And the further down I went, the wetter it was. Now then, I think that might have accounted for the scabbing, but the poor harvest and stunted growth, again, I think, was my own saved seed from last year. Right, so I really got myself caught out this year. I've got nothing to go in these beds at all, due to not having the time to get more sowings going. So I've now got 5 empty beds. So these had got a little bit of slug damage, but this was before I lifted them and transplanted them. So obviously I didn't remove those leaves because they were too small. We needed to leave them to photosynthesize. So some of them are damaged, but we've now put them in here. This is a really wet bed, if you will. So let's see, hopefully the cabbages should like this pretty well now that the potatoes are out. So I did have something I could plant, and they'll either grow or they won't. And to give them the best possible chance, I have another one of these pop-up fruit cages. If you didn't see me review on these, then pop back to that video, just search pop-up cages on my channel, and you'll see that review. And I've said in a couple of videos now, that's been up there since winter, and it's doing a fantastic job of protecting them strawberries. And the second one now is going to be used to protect the cabbages. Right, let's set it up. Just like that. I'll open it up and we'll get it put on the bed. And there it is. 30 seconds later, cabbages protected. That brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Alan's Allotment. Hope you've enjoyed the content. If you are having trials and tribulations yourself this year, keep marching. Just pick yourself up and dust yourself down and try again. I just want to say again, as always, thanks for all your likes, comments, subscriptions, donations, and just for following along. I really do appreciate it, and welcome to all my recent new subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing. Hope you're getting some benefit out of the channel. As always, wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be practical, keep yourselves out of harm's way. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.